Welcome to the video for dynamic lockdown planning. This was filmed in 2025-2026 year. And we're going to take you through how to plan to do a drill for dynamic lockdowns. Because of all the problems that have been happening within the world, where we've actually seen things like terrorist attacks, and we need to be able to keep our patients and our staff safe by locking down our premises. If we don't do these kind of things regularly, it can be really challenging to suddenly be expected to do something. So therefore, we're going to look at how to form a drill and why we should do those drills to keep our staff ready and alert and aware of what we need to do to take out some of that valuable time that's spent thinking and wondering and move straight into locking down our premises as we need to. So to introduce myself and explain why I'm doing this for you, I've been a practice manager for several areas over the years. My name's Luann Stewart, and you may have seen me with GP Excellence before doing some teaching and training. I also train and mentor for Lancashire Training Hub, for Manchester GP Excellence, and I train and mentor for the LMC. I'm also a private consultant in estates and currently working as a locum practice manager as well. That's a little bit about me. So what we're going to talk about today is setting up your plan for a dynamic lockdown. And we will be providing you with templates. So if you contact GP Excellence, there will be an explanation of how you can get all the templates that go alongside this video to make sure that we are keeping you all safe. I'm going to talk about why we need a plan, which we briefly mentioned at the beginning, and how to prepare for the unexpected, and more importantly, how to get your team ready to prepare for the unexpected. We often know as managers that we spend a lot of our time really expecting and hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. Unfortunately, our teams don't always see some of that planning that happens. And that's why we're looking at doing drills to keep things working and ticking over so that it becomes second nature. Obviously, recently we've had things like riots that have happened, and we've also had terrorist attacks. And within both of those scenarios, you do need to be able to lock down your building fairly quickly without lots and lots of questions from people and wondering who's supposed to do what. It can become more challenging if you're in a shared building with either other surgeries or other healthcare professionals, or even as part of a shopping centre where your GP surgery sits inside. That's something that we need to look at and prepare differently. And having these kind of drills is also something that is looked at very fondly by CQC at the moment, because it is part of the new Martin's Law that is coming in. And therefore, we need to make sure that we can have a drill so that we are prepared and ready. Much like you will have regular fire drills, that is removing people from your building, this is a drill where we need to know how to keep people safe within the building. You'll see this happens quite a lot in America, in schools, where they have very, very sadly had to do drills for what happens if a gunman comes into a school and how to keep the children safe. Well, this is much like that. This is what you need to do to prepare for that initial drill. We can't tell you what will happen in your drill. Obviously, that's down to your teams, but this is sort of a guide for the managers to learn how to get those drills ready, and so that you can feel you can work going forward, set up a drill within your own practice and make sure that you are running through those drills regularly, so that if you are unlucky enough to be caught up in an incident, you can keep your team and your patients safe within that dynamic lockdown. So where to start? So step one, make sure that you've actually got a dynamic lockdown policy. There are a few of them around, people like Practice Index or First Practice Management provide dynamic lockdown policies, but those are your off-the-shelf ones. Obviously, they are not made specifically for your surgery, and that is something that you do need to start looking at. to make sure that you don't just pull it off the shelf and call that your own policy, but does it actually fit your building? Does it explain the extra bits that you may have in your building? You might have some metal shutters you can pull down, for instance, to keep people out and keep things safe while you're inside. Are you on 2 floors? Are there lifts? How many entrance and exits do you have? All of those things should be looked at within your dynamic lockdown policy. It must also reflect the way you work within your own business. If you have someone who's in charge of your health and safety, they may be the person that is your named safety lead. Most practices, it will be the practice manager, and we need you to make sure that it's stated within your policy exactly how you work. So first things first, get that policy sorted. And yes, of course, there is a template to help you through that. Then have a little think about your location, the type of patients you have and the type of staff you have. How many staff? There's so many differences between a very small practice with only 5 or 6 staff in making sure that they are ready and understand what to do. Or perhaps you may have a large practice with 50 or 60 staff, and then things start to differ. Also, your location, are you very rural? And therefore, it may take longer for you to get help if you call 999, if you're in the middle of nowhere. Or are you really in a very busy built up area where actually it's more likely that there will be a problem that you will need to lock down? Are your patients very well to do? Do they listen to you? Have they got a certain amount of intelligence about them where they're going to listen and follow what you want to do? Or have you got more challenging patients, or patients that maybe don't speak English very well, so therefore that you're going to have to learn how to communicate with any patients that are in the building, often by pointing and signs, because you're not going to have a translator right there to help you through this. So all these things need to be thought about to go into your policy to make sure that you've got a plan in place for all of those things. So when we move to step two is to make sure that your dynamic lockdown policy also includes any branch surgeries that are covered within the plan. Now, they may have different needs if you have to lock down. They might be a different size. They may be in a shared building or different amounts of entrance and exits. And you need to think about all of that and make sure that that is covered within your plan, to or have a completely separate plan for your branch surgery. Either is okay, but you need to make sure that those branch surgeries are covered. If you have several surgeries under your wing, 5, 6, 7 different buildings, then I would personally make sure you have probably a dynamic lockdown for each one to make sure that it's covered and that you've got everything taken into account for that particular building. Step 3, pick a lead and a deputy for that. Now, as I said before, that will often be the practice manager, but it may be a health and safety lead. You may have a partner that has a real big interest in this and they may want to take a lead, but do make sure you have a deputy. And the reason for that is we're not there all the time. We don't work every moment the surgery's open. But also we have annual leave, or you may be on a sickness leave, and therefore somebody needs to be fully aware of the plan and have that ability to take over and assist you. If you have a branch surgery, make sure that you have a lead person for each branch that's there, because if you as the manager are not regularly in that building, somebody will need to take charge if that building needs to be locked down. And it's really because of the nature of a lockdown and things not being safe, you can't go travelling to that branch to then start locking it down, because it's obviously an unsafe situation and you need someone that's regularly there on the ground that can sort everything out for you. So make sure that plan is shared as well with key members of the staff, not just the deputy, but also the partners who need to be able to take charge, or any leads in different areas, such as reception leads, so that everyone will be fully aware of the plan and make sure that they can actually take charge of the plan in your absence. Then we go to step 4. We need to work through a plan together. You, your deputy, or anyone that you've decided is going to be in a key position to be in charge. And this is before any drills happen. This is to start planning how you would do that drill. Think about different entry points to the building. Have a look around your building and do that sort of separately, but then discuss together, because you will see different things. Different people see things differently, and therefore you can make sure everything is covered. You do need to have something within your plan for what happens to staff who may be on a visit, or maybe they're due to start at lunchtime because they're doing a half day, and that might be the precise moment you're locking down. How are you going to inform those staff? How are you going to get hold of those staff? And what are you going to do to make sure they don't bring themselves into a building, making themselves unsafe, and also making everyone unsafe, because you will have to unlock the building to let them in. Make sure that you have a good communications plan. That's how you would update your social media and websites in any kind of emergency, that you would know how to contact the ICB communications team, because they should be able to assist you in getting a word out. Have a plan on who would generally call the police or emergency services, or how you will discuss that amongst you on the day, and that they know exactly what to say and where you should be. What do you do about patients that want to leave the building? This is a really difficult one, because although we're locking things down for their safety, you will sometimes have people that will insist on leaving, and we cannot actually lock them in. So therefore, against their will. So therefore, we would need to have a plan on how to let people out as safely as possible, but that they must be aware that it's at their risk. And then those considerations that I mentioned earlier about being in a shared building. If you are in a shared building with other surgeries or other healthcare professionals, you need to all sit down and discuss with you who will take the lead. Obviously, you will need to be able to lead your own areas with your own staff, but who will take the lead on locking down the main entrance and exits, getting into the entire building? If that communication needs to happen way ahead of any problems happening, and it's good to encourage them to be part of any drill that you do. So do make a plan to talk to other companies within your building, make sure they have a lockdown plan, and see if you can work together on this to make everybody safe. When you've got to a point where your plan is ready and you feel that you know exactly what you would do if you had to lock down your building, share your plan with your team. Sit down with the entire team, maybe a PLT afternoon would be a good time, and work through and talk about the need for drills. Why you're doing this. This is not another tick box. This is something that perhaps could save lives. Do take their views into consideration. They may have different ideas about different things that could keep you safe. No idea is silly. It is all worth discussing and making sure that you get that buy-in from your team of why you're doing a drill, because it's really important. Step 7, I would start with a plan drill. Very different to your fire drills. Actually tell your team you are going to do an initial drill, because this is something completely new to them. Really, if you can, I would do that on a PLT afternoon, or a time that you don't have patients in for the very first time, just so that the team can run through what they need to do, rather than it being all out there with patients in and added confusion. Just for the first one, just to get that ready. Do the same at any branch surgery you have, because that will also start to make you realise your weak points, things that you haven't thought about, things that haven't been covered. And again, listen to your team when you debrief, because they will spot different things to you, because they will be in different parts of the building. Make sure before you do that plan drill that everyone knows who should be checking windows, who should be bringing down if you have metal shutters, who should be locking doors, what you can be doing, and who should be responsible for that. You cannot be responsible for everything. You do need to delegate, but make sure your teams are aware what they need to be doing. So as I said, make sure people know exactly what is expected of them. And the planned drill gives the team a chance to practice. This isn't about catching people out or telling them they didn't do something that they should have done. This is to get them really involved in making sure that you have a safe surgery. Do make sure that the partners also take part and don't just disappear. The staff need to see that leadership, not just from you, but from the whole team, the whole leadership team, which includes partners. Step 8, check around afterwards. What did you miss? Could someone have got in? How would you safely let patients out? What would you have done differently? You will not get it right the first time, not 100%. None of us do. But this makes sure that you pick up all of those things so it's right the next time. Depends how you choose to do your lockdown drill. If you've got a big team and you want to have 1 or 2 people outside the building trying to get in, then you will spot even more stuff that perhaps you could improve on. After you've done your drill, either on the same day or very soon afterwards, in the next day or so afterwards, sit down, discuss, and debrief the team about what went well, what didn't go so well, what perhaps you could do differently, and what would happen if you needed to purchase more stuff to keep you safe, make changes to the building. Those are all things to be looked at, worked out, and discussed. Step 9, plan what you would do for those staff who are out of the building while you're doing your drill. Make sure that's in that communications plan. And what would have happened if that had been real? Again, if you have enough staff to do it, think about having a staff member that's pretending to be on a visit. Are you getting hold of them? Are you letting them know? What happens if they appear back and it's too dangerous outside? You need to make sure that there is a plan in place for that and have that as part of your drill. Think about whether you need permanent supplies in the building for long lockdown periods. Make an emergency plan for any longer times to think, what should we have to keep us in there? Do we have enough water? There's normally a tap. I'm sure you'll be fine with that. But do you need any extra supplies? Do you need emergency food rations if you might be in there for 6, 7, 8 hours? These are all things that could happen and have happened to people. So we need to make sure that you have stuff in place for an emergency. Step 11, put anything in place that you have found. So if you found that there were weak points where you could get in and you need to either purchase things or make changes to your dynamic lockdown plan, after you have debriefed, add all of these in. Change your plan, change your policy, and learn each time you do things. Each time you redo the drill, and I would certainly not always tell people ahead of time that you're going to do it, but just for that first time to make sure. Debrief and learn each time you do it. And each time you need to make changes, put those changes into place. You can do risk assessments over various things that you might have found, but make sure that you have a general plan in place that is open to change. It is important to have an emergency box. We should have this as part of our business continuity planning, and hopefully you've seen that there is a business continuity planning video that can sit alongside this as part of your emergency training. In your emergency box, you should have a first aid kit, high-vis vests, torches, a copy of your business continuity plan, maybe a copy of your dynamic lockdown plan, and things like water, or you may have those small snacks in there for if you're locked in. This could be also used that you may find that part of the building you can't get into if something goes wrong, but you may be in a smaller space and it's handy to have that extra first aid stuff. So to recap and make sure that you've got everything in place, do your lockdown drills and do them quite regularly. Couple a year at least, to make sure that your team get used to having those drills and knowing what they're supposed to do. Organise that initial drill and involve the team and make sure they understand. Do think about after the event as well. What happens after a real event, not just a drill? How are your staff going to be feeling? Are people going to be feeling scared, worried, or upset? Are they going to be extremely stressed? Do make sure you have resilience plans in place for team resilience and look at the stress levels of your team. Nobody knows how they're going to feel, but have plans in place for the aftermath of an event, knowing what you need to do to make things easier and better for your team, and so that you can keep your team at work and keep the practice running, but being in mind that their mental health will have suffered in a real event. So do start to make plan drills a part of your health and safety planning. The more you go over things, the better the staff will be at reacting. And be aware that we'll be organising a business continuity updated session that will be recorded, so you will be able to have a copy of that recording if you didn't attend the session. I believe the session will be in January 2026, but again, there will be a video that will be fully available for you. There will also be a video available for organising resilience for your teams, particularly considering things like lockdown, and ways to keep them resilient in general, just to make sure that you have a happier and healthier team. You can organise to see those videos via the GP Excellence team, who will have them available for you. I'm hoping today has been useful to give you an idea on how to set up a lockdown drill, ready to prepare for any eventuality and make sure that you keep your teams nice and safe, because the more we prepare and the more we practice doing things, the better we'll be at it when something goes wrong. Please make sure that you get copies of all of the templates that have been made available alongside this video. And when you have got those templates alongside this video, do start to prepare your own lockdown drill. Don't forget to involve your team. This isn't for a manager to sort everything out. This is for your entire team to feel included and to buy into it, to make sure that they understand how important it is to keep everybody safe. I hope that's been useful. Thank you so much for your time. Once again, my name's Luann Stewart, and I've been here talking to you about dynamic lockdown and doing safety drills to keep your team safe. Thank you so much, and goodbye.